It's even better. If I take the battery out of here, it's even better. Okay? Oh, the modern things of technology. And you go like this. Oh, where's that button? You don't silence the phone. I've learned this little secret. You turn it completely off. Okay? Matter of fact, now that's off, I can actually put my hearing aid back in so I can actually hear you. Okay? Otherwise, it's going to go off my ear when I'm trying to talk to you. Okay. Let's give you just a little bit of background that I think you'll really appreciate. Okay? Most people know that I served in the legislature for a long time. My final elected position was the chairman of the Bannock County Commission here in Pocatello. And the reason I came back was to facilitate the building of a new interstate exchange just north of Pocatello. That interstate exchange is going to open and have a dedication on November 7th. The reason, the necessity, the change, the reason I left teaching school out of Century High School was the importance of this is to Bannock County and Pocatello in particular. We've had 30,000 acres of developable land locked up for centuries because there's multiple ownerships out there. I know most of them. I grew up in Chubbuck. My home, when I was a child, was directly behind City Hall on Highway Avenue. My grandfather's home is still there. And so I'm a Chubbuck boy at heart, and I happened to fall in love with politics at age 26, and the rest is history. But coming back and being Bannock County Commissioner, when I discovered the scope and nature of this huge project that we have in Pocatello, I got involved. That's the only reason that I ran for County Commissioner. And once I'd accomplished that task of getting the interstate exchange, then I retired. I went on at that time to another position and working in the President's administration. I retired from that as well for health reasons here about a year ago. And so I'm a free man again. And when I heard the problems they were having in Pocatello when I came to my class reunion last month, I recognized they were in serious trouble on this whole issue here. And let me explain why. When that project was accomplished, when I was on the County Commission in 2017, what took place at that time was an agreement between the City of Pocatello, the City of Chubbuck, Bannock County, and the State of Idaho, plus 6 developers. I pulled them together. We had a meeting here early after I became County Commissioner, and we all agreed that we had to work together. This had to be a united effort. And that if we tried to have this civil war that's gone on between Pocatello and Chubbuck that has accelerated in the last, especially in the last 10 years. We have 2 small town mayors, very candidly, that are fighting over this issue. And I love them dearly both. I helped both of them get elected. When Mayor Blatt upset Roger Chase, it was myself and Steve Brown that pulled off that upset. And I still love Roger Chase. I went to high school with him, played football with him, served in the state legislature. I know Roger very well, and he's still a good friend. But having said that, we made an agreement, all those people at that table. The other person that represented the state of Idaho was Ed Belay. Ed Belay is very important. He's a retired district engineer that brought about the state's willingness from the Transportation Board to actually do this project. So he took care of the state Transportation Board. I took care of the legislature. So it was myself and Ed Belay that landed this project. Ed Belay's out of town as well, but I'll be announcing his position in just a few moments. We're the ones that pulled it together. A lot of other people want to stand up and take credit, especially the local elected mayors, and I understand that. So you talk to them and you get a different story. But they were at the same meeting that we were at. Me and Ed Belay was there present. And I stood up at that meeting and says, gentlemen, it's time to put up or shut up. And I committed $1 million from Bannock County to this project. Mayor England committed money from Chubbuck. Mayor Blatt committed money from Pocatello. Ed Belay committed $5 million from the state of Idaho. The developers provided the rest. This is a $25 million project. These developers are rather upset what's going on in Pocatello right now because they have clients, 17 separate clients, and that's the only number I'll give you. But those 17 clients are connected to the potential of us bringing in 6,000 high-paid jobs into Bannock County. What comes to those 6,000 high-paid jobs is a factor of 3. For every high-paid job you have to have 3 other service jobs. So what we're talking about doing is doubling the labor base in Pocatello, Idaho over the next 10 years. We'll have twice as many jobs here. That's the reason jobs is so prevalent on this board. It's jobs that we're talking about. And these mayors have violated that agreement that they agreed to at that meeting. And so that's causing us serious problems because now the developers are talking to these companies. And our property taxes are twice as high as they are in Utah. A bunch of these companies are coming from the modern Silicon Valley that Utah is. They're much bigger than the Silicon Valley in California, by the way. They're number 1, Silicon Valley is number 2. So property taxes, when we talk to an executive that's living in a $600,000 house, and he can come here to Pocatello and buy a home on our current tax structure, and his taxes from Salt Lake to here more than double. What do you think that's doing for the average employee? What the group is trying to accomplish on the Hill is to have affordable houses in the $250,000 to $300,000 range, so their employees can benefit from this. But their taxes more than double if they move to Pocatello, Idaho. So when you have business owners and then they see this squabble, this civil war between Pocatello and Chubbuck, it's a job killer. They are not coming into this mess. So these people are starting to back off, say, you guys have a civil war in Pocatello. We cannot deal with the two-headed monster. The ordinances, the building permits, the entire administration of 2 cities is a killer for us. I'm going to announce right now the chairman of the Make One City, okay? This is really important. This is where Jim Johnson comes in. 1 city for Pocatello and Chubbuck. 1, not 2. When we create 1 city, we eliminate an entire city administration. We eliminate $150,000 a year that Mayor Blatt is costing us in his wages and benefits. It's a little lower in Chubbuck, it's only around $100,000 a year. That's a $250,000 savings with just 2 mayors. You eliminate an entire city council, and guess what? It's much bigger. And then you eliminate the 30 duplicate jobs of administration that are in the cities. That is $3 million a year. Just the duplication of jobs between these 2 cities. In addition to that, we're asking them to stop spending money. Stop hiring people and digging a deeper hole for the taxpayers of Bannock County, Pocatello, and Chubbuck. If they instituted a 1-year freeze of employment and not replace the 64 people that left in the last year, that saves us well over $3 million more a year. Total being $7 million in pure property taxes. If that happens, our tax rates, instead of being, Boise right now has a 50% advantage on it because our tax rates are the highest in the entire state of Idaho, right here. We eliminate that problem and we're within 10% of Boise taxes in 1 year, just by consolidating cities. But more importantly is this $5 billion. That comes from all the jobs coming in Pocatello. When this gets fully implemented, our taxes will be 1/2. Property taxes will be 1/2 of what Boise is. We will be the place in Idaho to expand your businesses. Once you combine the population of Pocatello and Chubbuck, what happens when that takes place is amazing. I can't hardly explain what that does for a community. First off, the population jumps to 85,000, instantly making Pocatello the largest city out of the Ada Canyon County corridor. It completely blows Twin Falls and Idaho Falls off the map. It is now the gate city, if we decide to call it that. The voters can decide what to call it. But if it's the gate city, then we now have a 50% advantage on Boise, and the other 2 cities aren't even in consideration. And because we're the largest, as we clear 100,000, which this will build out to eventually, this entire community will grow from where we're at now to well over 125,000 people. We qualify then to apply for federal grants to create a regional airport. We shut down Pocatello and Idaho Falls, and it's the Gate City Regional Airport. By the way, if you want to know a great location to put it at, just drive north of Blackfoot. The interstate exchange is going in that would service that very airport right now. Will never happen if we have two warring cities in a civil war against each other. Just not going to happen. Because to start with, the taxes are so high, these businesses are reconsidering, even considering us to move in. This organization has hired someone locally that I'll let them announce later on that is busting his tail end to bring businesses in. We had a great demonstration this morning right here on one of those businesses. Their biggest concern was this. And he says, we cannot bring our employers into an area that their taxes are going to double. It doesn't make any sense to the corporations or to bring employees into this environment. Two cities is killing us. And I know both mayors are against this program. Totally against it. Why? Because they're going to lose their jobs. We got both city councils. The only one that stood up was just here just a second ago. He's standing here, Jim Johnson, the president of the Pocatello City Council. He's mayor when Vlad's gone, which is a lot of time. Okay? And so when the mayor can take off, he knows Jim's in charge, and Jim replaced my brother Ron. That seat was held by my brother Ron for 15 years, and Jim's had it for 9 years. So for the last, I don't know, almost 25 years, you've had either a Fraser or now a Johnson in that position. An outstanding job that Jim Johnson's done. He sees the vision. He understands that we need one city. It lowers property taxes, brings jobs, and brings us $5 million of economic growth that leads to regional airports. We become the next Sun Valley. That may shock you, but we literally do. Because all of a sudden when we have a regional airport, guess what? We had a millionaire just buy a ski area very close to us. And it's interesting what they can do with that ski area by going over the top. We would have better skiing than they have in Sun Valley. They looked at here first before they went to Sun Valley. You may not know that. I'm a history teacher and I'll give all those details at another time. But we become a destination area for jobs and for recreation. We have it all around us. We have so much to offer. And we bring businesses in right now. They see that. What's killing us? Two cities. We need one. What's killing us is high property taxes. We elect Jim Johnson, and Don Zeeby is the only candidate that's came out in support. So what we have is a team between Jim Johnson and Don Zeeby. They're the two that can turn this entire thing around. They're running against folks that do not support this project. They do not like the Northgate thing. They think we're bringing in outsiders. What they don't know is that every stitch of that land is connected with local investors. And this company is facilitating it for us, but it's ownership all locally controlled. They're local people that's doing this. It is not some out-of-town folks coming up from Utah. We're bringing them because they know how to do it. If you go over and see the Village in Boise, that shopping center is what they'd like to see in Pocatello. Instead of all of our money going down the track to Salt Lake to buy furniture and suits and all that stuff, they can be buying them right here in Pocatello, Idaho. What this will do for downtown Pocatello is incredible. These folks want a great community. They will help us rebuild that entire area into a historic district. We could not have a better opportunity, and we're about to blow it because we have two mayors and two city councils that want to keep their jobs. They're the only ones that we have organized against this effort. And this self-interest, this absolutely drives me crazy. And I'll give you a couple numbers, but let me give you just a few more. Is this picking up okay? No? Okay. Let me give you just a few other numbers to think about. When Mayor Vlad decided that once this project was annexed in, to go against the agreement and force the developers to literally use Pocatello's sewage system and not run it through Chubbuck, I call it pumping poop uphill for brief. That's exactly what the mayor is requiring the developers to do. That was not part of the agreement. The agreement has been violated because they were supposed to cooperate with Chubbuck, and for whatever reason, Mayor Vlad has decided that he wants to keep all the sewer in Pocatello. So they're building pipelines as we speak, clear over to Philbin Road on the other side of the mall to keep the poop all in Pocatello, denying Chubbuck millions of dollars that the developer would pay them to use their excess sewer capacity that's already in the ground. Because it would benefit Chubbuck, for some reason, the mayors decided that wasn't a good idea. And that was not in the original agreement back in 2017 when we made the agreement. It violates that agreement. In retaliation, you've had the mayor of Chubbuck violate the agreement by going above the interstate and annexing everything that's north of Siphon Road. That is now the city limits of Chubbuck. Now the city of Pocatello fires another shot back and are denying any entrance for Chubbuck on Siphon Road to the exchange. There isn't one single connecting road between Chubbuck and Pocatello above the interstate. It's like the new Berlin Wall has been erected. This is stupid. When major corporations see us doing this, we have high property taxes, they have the $5 billion, why would they come to this mess? They can read, they're smart people. They're saying this is ridiculous. If you folks do not get one city, then you can kiss off $5 billion. Bottom line, that's the kind of problem we're having by having two cities. And I'll certainly answer any questions you might have.
You mentioned that there's what you call like a civil war between Pocatello and Chubbuck. How would you characterize that? I mean, how's that developed, or how's that happening? How would you characterize a civil war? What do you mean by that?
Well, both of them were at the meeting that agreed was going to work as a team. Both of them understood that the poop was going to go through Chubbuck. And once the mayor of Pocatello finds out that they're going to pay him $5 million to pump it through Chubbuck, Chubbuck's elated because they build all this infrastructure, and the second they get the poop, they can lower all the water rates for the residents in Chubbuck. So Chubbuck, right now, today, will honor the agreement. Right from the mayor. I got plenty of witnesses. He told us that today. Okay? And for whatever reason, Brian Brad will not return a phone call to me. I've tried for a month to contact him. He even had, my daughter's a waitress, and she even says, my dad would like you to call him. Oh yeah, I'm going to do that. No, I've got 45 messages into him. He refuses to meet with me because he knows he went against the agreement. And for whatever reason, of course, he's benefiting the tune of $150,000. So he's protecting his own job. And he has high ambitions to be the next congressman. And I don't see how this is going to help him by continuing on this feud. Now, if this doesn't happen, it looks like we build an interstate exchange to nowhere, doesn't it? And poor old Poppy's a local builder that's teamed up with local owners' properties. He's stuck out there, only 2 houses constructed right now because they cannot connect him to sewer. You also have problems in the state of Idaho. Department of Environmental Quality is not giving him a water permit for water or sewer because of this mess. This is all tied to whatever reason they're doing it is ridiculous. Now, Mayor England, I have to tell you, is easier to work with than Mayor Blatt. We talk regularly, and he will defend to the hilt how he's going to make Chubbuck the greatest thing in the world and deny this project, apparently, because he does not understand or he won't accept these numbers, saying Fraser is not telling accurate numbers, which is ridiculous. I'm not saying the numbers, okay? These numbers are what the businesses are offering us. Does it reduce taxes that much? Absolutely, and then some. When you can put this much more tax base in, you got to understand it's called economy of scale, and you only have one city to feed and not 2. That new city abolishes Pocatello and Chubbuck. Their ordinances are history. They're no more. They don't exist. So the new city of Gate City creates new laws. They take the best of Pocatello, they take the best of Chubbuck, and combine them on a new council that we elect. You have a 7-member council, just like Pocatello has now, but we get rid of a out-of-control mayor. As a matter of fact, I would suggest you go to a city manager form of government to make them all part-time and have a professional that knows what the heck he's doing on job growth and creation. It has been a disaster, very candidly, having elected mayors here. That happened a couple decades ago because Val Brewster protesting, and once you've got the strong mayors, you can't ever get rid of them. They like the job, it pays too much money. You go back and create a new city and let us decide as citizens. All we're asking these 2 mayors is to allow the voters of Pocatello and Chubbuck to decide. They are refusing to put it on the ballot. Both of them.
What is the political process to merge the 2 cities?
It is so simple. Let me give you a short history lesson. What Pocatello used to be, when the railroad first came in, they came through the gate. That's the Portneuf Gap. It's the gateway to the whole Pacific Ocean right here. Okay? The railroad located here because it was the gate. There was no city here at that time, so they simply called it the gate. three small communities popped up. One was called Pocatello. One was called North Pocatello, and the third one was Fairview. This is going back to 1924. Of course, it's called the Gate for 100 years before that, well, 50 years before that. But those three small cities were here. Chubbuck did not even exist. Nothing in Chubbuck in 1924. It's farm fields, that's all it was. What happens is that the city of Alameda is formed under state law. It was the merger of two cities that chose a new name, exactly what we're doing. And that new name was Alameda. So this is already very doable because you're eliminating two cities, they're gone, and you're creating a new entity. They eliminated North Pocatello, which is right there on Oak Street, that's the reason you have to change the lines, and the next city, which is Fairview, that was created by the Satterfield family. And since I mentioned it, Ryan Satterfield is the chairman of this committee to create one city. Ryan Satterfield, who has major developments in Chubbuck and Pocatello. He's the one that, when we met with Mayor England just a few days ago, what we recall is he says, no problem, I'll get it on the ballot for you, and I'll let the citizens decide. Because that's all we're asking. But we have an out-of-control mayor on both sides that refuse to let you, as citizens, vote on this issue.
So how does it get on the ballot? What's the political
The
process?
political process is the city council puts it on the ballot. How do you put it on the ballot when you got two mayors that refuse to even put it on the agenda?
Well, you said that Mayor England said he would get it on the ballot?
He said he would, but today he backed off. Because he says, no, I think we need to stay Chubbuck. So now we have a little problem there. So then we have another process which we can do, which I guess they're going to force us to do. By the way, we already have 200 people on a committee to create one city. Over 72% of the citizens of Bannock County support this right now. That's the reality. That's a poll that yours truly conducted. I'm in the consulting business. 500 person, well, I'm not going to go into detailed poll. Bottom line, it's a plus or minus 10% poll because the numbers are so small. So it could be as low as 62%. It could also be as high as 82%. And that's both communities. It was slightly lower in Chubbuck. And so the margin of error in there, it was barely a majority on the low end. If you take 10% off the poll, then you're down to just barely 50% supporting it. It only takes 50% to create the city.
If the mayor has refused to put it before the city council for a vote,
Then we have to go the route, we have to petition the city, gather signatures, and force them into doing it.
when will that process begin?
It'll begin if these, well, it won't, we don't have to worry about this very candidly, because if we elect Jim Johnson and Zeeby to the Pocatello City Council, it will be on the ballot, because we have enough votes with the council members that we have already with those two, because we defeat two people that are dead totally opposed. Roger Bray is being challenged by Don Zeeby. Zeeby is on board supporting this one city. And you take Councilman Bray, he's been totally opposed for it from day one and doesn't want out-of-staters for some reason. He thinks it's evil to have economic development. I don't understand what his problem is. Zeeby is being challenged by, Zeeby's going against Bray, excuse me. Johnson's being challenged by a little gal who's an administrative Pocatello. Yes, Stevens is her name. And again, she's one of Ray's minions. There's another one that read the race. I'm not worried about that one.
Okay, so what about citizens of Chubbuck?
Citizens Chubbuck, right now they're on the sidelines because there's no races in Chubbuck right now. You have one city councilman that stepped down. There's a two-man race out there. We're not getting involved in that election at all. And the other seat is running unopposed. So what you have is there's not any real action in Chubbuck. And we could run write-ins in Chubbuck. And very candidly, I have ran several successful write-in candidacies. But we're not trying to do that. We thought we had an agreement with Chubbuck that we didn't have to do that. So we're not going to run in Chubbuck at all. So, but once Pocatello decides, then the pressure is on Chubbuck to simply allow democracy to take place. What are you so afraid to put on the ballot? Are you afraid that Chubbuck might, in fact, hear the facts and vote you out of office? Is that what you're afraid of, Mayor Bladd and Mayor England? Is that what you're afraid of? Why are they so afraid to allow democracy and the citizens of Pocatello and Chubbuck to have a chance to hear the arguments and decide to go one city? If they simply put it on the ballot, so all what's standing in our way right now is the City Council of Pocatello and the City Council and mayors of Pocatello and Chubbuck. If we elect these two individuals, this sends a message to the rest of them. Politicians, pay attention. If Jim Johnson gets over 70% of the vote. Does that send a message? He's the only elected official that did this. In 1960, George Hansen was the mayor of Alameda. The next year, after he merged Alameda in with Pocatello, he became the congressman from Idaho because he accepted what people were saying, and George Hansen is responsible for Alameda disappearing, and we have Pocatello now. In 1960, Chubbuck was finally formed, actually in 1959, as the village of Chubbuck. 244 people. They had 40 people that voted.
What were the economic interests of Chubbuck that caused that to get formed?
The reason Chubbuck was formed is there were 7 bars. 7 bars. The bar owner, one of which is my uncle, okay? Ernie Frazier. His wife is named Myrtle. The biggest bar in Idaho was Myrtle's Place. The second biggest was the Green Triangle. You had the Redwood Gardens. It got destroyed when the interstate went through. And we just saw what happened to the 5 Mile Inn. The 5 Mile Inn, and I think you already know the history on that one, it was 5 miles from where the action was in Pocatello. It was out in the country. You had 3 additional bars. There was actually 7 bars. There were smaller ones out there. You had Valenti and a bunch of other people that formed the original city council of Chubbuck. My father, Evan S. Frazier, served on the original council in Chubbuck. He wasn't the mayor, but he had a brother out there. Then Dad leaves the next year and buys the Wagon Wheel Inn south of Pocatello, and my family's been in the bar business for the entire time. There's an interesting story of that because Hoss Brown, who's my mother's a Brown, she convinced him to move here from Kentucky. And what he brought was moonshine. And that moonshine was over 1,000 gallons a month that was sold through Myrtle's Place. So this is all ancient history now. We laugh about it, but they had a speakeasy there. They had ladies of the night, whatever you want to call them. They had a gambling that went on for 20 years after it was abolished in Idaho in the 1950s. That all took place at Myrtle's. That's where Smith's grocery store is now located, right across from the 5 Mile Inn. So with the burning of the 5 Mile Inn, we just lost an iconic purpose of the existence of Chubbuck. So it was the Fraziers and Brown family. By the way, that family heritage from Evan Silas Frazier, who came, he was born in 1870, came on the land rush and had free land given to him on what's now the INL, and he farmed, fell down, and he came in and became a great Indian trader with the Indians. There's out on the reservation you'll find a Frazier Road named in honor of my great-grandfather. From his lineage, there's over 10,000 descendants. Almost 20% still live right here around Pocatello and Chubbuck. A lot of them have moved on to other places, but they're all right here.
What would the average residential property tax savings be?
$900. We did it, averaged them out between Chubbuck and Pocatello.
$900 average?
The average reduction by combining the 2 cities after the first year is a savings of people in their houses today saving $900 in property taxes. That's the reason it says $900 on here.
Okay.
And the political brochure, you can't say much. These are the 2 guys that can bring it about. They support this issue. This is their campaign.
So if the citizens, if your polls are wrong and the citizens vote no,
Then it doesn't
what
happen.
happens?
Well, then we have a real problem, because then these guys see, no, there's not much, we don't have much opportunity, and so all of a sudden this becomes a very small project, and we lose $5 billion, and we keep high property taxes because we don't bring this
How
to
do we
bring
know
it down.
that that's going to happen? Because we've done updates on Northgate, and the developers always tell us everything's going fine.
Well, it is going fine until this hiccup came along. It was going wonderful. And all of a sudden, this becomes front page story because the mayors violated the agreement with the contractors. They violated Millennial's agreement. And what happened, once that happened, is that we had a situation where these guys can read newspapers. And they know how high the property taxes were. But they says, this will rectify it, it will help a lot. But now, the only way to get it accomplished is one city.
So do we have any businesses that have actually said, we are going to pull out of the still if this does not?
I cannot, that's redacted information, cannot share that with you. All I know is that we have major folks, we talked about one of them today. That was one that was now beginning to second guess coming. That's a very well-named company. That is one of the folks that we're negotiating with. They found out how high the property taxes were when the executive came to Pocatello. He lives in a $600,000 house now and found out that if he moved here from Provo, his taxes tripled on his house. He knew that would happen to his employees as well. He's a big chunk of this $5 billion. So he says, unless you can rectify this thing, I'm not coming. I can tell you that much.
But at this point, then it's all hearsay, so how do we,
How is that hearsay? You just heard it directly from the source. I'm a consultant that works for the project.
but we don't know who it is?
We cannot tell you because they're not, you gotta understand business. Why in the world would they disclose to all their competition what their potential future plans are? There is no way you're gonna hear about it until we announce the construction that they're building. That is just common sense. Any other questions?
Okay,
Don?
so
Don, come on,
what's the
come
name
on.
of this committee?
This is, the committee is headed, let me give you the information on that, because that's a very pertinent question. This is to create one city committee.
The One City Committee?
One City Committee.
Number one?
Number one, we're gonna create one city, one city
That's a
committee.
ring to it, doesn't it? One
Nice.
city committee.
One city committee, you like that? Is that kind of, you like that? Good, yeah.
And then.
The two co-chairmen is Ryan Satterfield, who is the most premier builder and developer in all of eastern Idaho. He has interest in these projects, and he's the one that has been very instrumental, and we thought we had Mayor England on board. And he's the one that committed to us.
Chairman?
The other one is Dustin Manwaring. Okay, Dustin Manwaring has a history in the legislature, and I'm not gonna make any announcements for him, but he is so excited to have the opportunity to be involved to bring about one city. So we have two major players as co-chairmen.
And then,
Go ahead.
what's the connection with ZV and Johnston as well? What's their relation with the?
Their connection is that they are the heroes that are gonna bring about one city. The only purpose of this press conference is to announce that and he just arrived, and I'll let Tim talk to himself for a second, but Don Zeeby is joining with Jim Johnson to make this dream happen. They understand economic development, and I'll let Don Zeeby explain his own background a little bit, but he understands high property taxes. Don Zeeby is one of the finest commercial brokers in Idaho. He's not associated with our local real estate board at all, he's a commercial broker. So he understands dealing with these people on a daily basis. So he understands creation of jobs. He's the expert that we need on the city council. Him and Jim Johnson will make a total difference on the attitude of the city council. With their elections, we already know the other council members will come on board and they will outvote the mayor.
So they're advocates for the program?
Yes, these are advocates. This is their campaign is what we're talking about. They're the ones.
Re-election campaign or?
Don Zeeby has never been elected.
Right. Or
So
an
he's
election
running against
campaign.
Bray. This is about bringing about one city. How it comes about is Don Zeeby and Jim Johnson being elected to the city council.
So I guess I'm just confused, because there's several working parts here. So we have the development of Northgate, we have the election of Don Zeeby and Jim Johnston, and we have the action of creating one city. between
Correct.
Pocatello and Chubbuck. How do all these working
I
parts come
think
together?
maybe we just need a little clarification.
Yeah.
Don, come on up. Do you mind, buddy? Well, do you want to get him on camera right now? Okay. I can give the clarification in 30 seconds if you want.
No, I'd rather speak for myself.
Okay, fair enough.
You got time for one more question?
Sure.
Have
Let
the
me
develop-
finish. Okay.
have the developers considered bringing legal action for breach of contract against the city? Pocatello?
I don't want to go there just quite yet because they are in breach of contract. Okay? And it's an agreement that is not in paper. We're not interested in going there because it was an agreement of all those people in that room. We had elected officials, I was one of them, and it was a hard commitment, and everybody there knows it. By the way, let me give the rest of the committee because this will come into play.
I think we need to be cautious here.
Well, let me finish, Don, then I'll give you the floor. The other members of the committee is Ed Belay. He is the retired engineer that brought it about. He just retired as the senior engineer for the state of Idaho. He ran District 25. Okay, so he's on the committee as well.
Okay.
Okay, is
So we
that,
got Belay.
okay.
We
You
got
also have,
Satterfield, Manwaring.
you have Arlo Luke,
Okay.
okay? And Arlo Luke is one of the prominent people here in Pocatello. Out in Chubbuck, you have Victor Contreras, okay? And he's one of the ones that initially, as soon as he had the right information, came right on board. No problem. You have Kay Jensen. Kay Jensen ran for the legislature, is one of the most prominent people out there. Jenkins, excuse me. Okay? Now I have a bunch of other names. I'm gonna leave it at just that many for right now, because there's a bunch of other folks. What I have here, and just so you understand, and there's no zooming in on this one, okay, guys? This is the committee. That's how big it is, okay? So these folks are just the steering committee on top. This is a committee, once we explain it to people, we went out and did a trial run in Chubbuck and got hardcore people that were opposed to this amendment, that totally supported the mayor. In 20 minutes, they changed their positions once they understood the facts.
Who is this?
I'm not gonna tell you who. I can't share that with you. What I'm saying is in the polling, and what I do for a living is go out and get people's
Okay,
opinions.
so and what's your consulting firm?
It is Providence Consulting Group,
And that's based in
dot
Jackson Hole?
Inc., Jackson Hole.
Jacksonville, Florida?
Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
I incorporated that because I'm a Western boy, and by the way, I plan on buying a house back in Pocatello. But right now, I do live in Florida full-time, but this is dragging me back home, and I found Florida's pretty hot in summer. So I am gonna have a residence here in Pocatello, so yeah, I already have property here, but it'll be expanded.
Who is it that hired Providence Consulting for this initiative?
The project, it's called Northgate, they hired me. The Millennial Group, the principals of the Millennial Group approached me and they says, we have a
So
problem.
Buck Swaney.
Buck Sweeney is an employee of that organization, okay? The principals at this stage, I just named you some of the principals, you don't even realize it. A lot of these folks are the folks that are actually not only building this project, but are involved in it. And so you have a number of local people that I'm not gonna share with you. I've been hired to do this job. This isn't about me, okay? This is about facts and figures and electing Don Zeeby and Jim Johnston to City Council.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out, I just am coming at this, I feel as if we've kind of cherry picked a couple different elements of things that are happening in the city. I'm extremely confused about what's going on, I guess is what I'm saying. So in order for me to understand the working parts of this.
Okay, the person
I
that
mean, there's
hired
gotta
me,
be some teeth
the
to
person that
this,
hired
you know?
me is Tom Ballard.
Tom Ballard,
Ballard. He does not want to be involved in this. They are non-political.
like the Ballard Medical Tom Ballard?
This Tom Ballard is one of the principals behind the entire project.
Which project?
The Northgate project.
With what group is he with?
Oh my gods.
I mean, this is important stuff.
I'm sorry
I
that
mean,
you
this
don't
is brand
understand
new-
it.
No,
He
I
is,
do understand, but this is brand new information. That we've been covering this project for 2 years plus, and I'm hearing stuff I've never heard
so
before.
you've never bothered to look into what Millennial is? Have you
I
ever
mean, Buck
bothered?
Sweeney's the millennial guy, that's what we've known. to
He
this
works
point
for
forward.
them,
Okay, so Tom Ballard's Buck's boss,
yes.
okay. And so is this, I guess I wanna make sure that we're not crossing, I mean, what is the goal for this project to get ZB and Johnston elected?
No, it is not.
Okay, is it we need to, is it based upon the recent, okay, so it's based upon.
That's what it's based on.
So it's just a recent development based on the property tax,
The recent development-
reassessment that came out.
The issue is, you had two mayors that violated agreement in 2017 with all the other elected officials and all these people that are involved in this project. They're the ones that are forcing us to pump poop uphill through Pocatello and not giving the city of Chubbuck $5 million. Why the Mayor Blad did that, I have no idea, because he won't talk to me. Now, Mayor England, he's a gentleman. He said, Evan, if you can put this back on the tracks, we will still honor the original agreement. Now, we have a problem there. It's going to become much more expensive because that agreement would have taken place as we built the interstate exchange, which is going to be dedicated in a few weeks. We would already have the poop flowing through Chubbuck today if these mayors had not violated this agreement. Can you understand now why it's so important for these people that have wasted $25 million in our community and got sideswiped by two mayors? Does that make sense?
Well, why not just go to court over that agreement versus?
And spend the next 5 years in court and lose the opportunity of these companies?
So
That would,
be
we're not going to
political.
court. We have
We're
no
not gonna be
interest in going to
political,
court.
But we are gonna overthrow two mayors, essentially.
No, they're not up for election. Neither one of them are. We're simply asking two mayors to allow the citizens of Pocatello and Chubbuck the opportunity to vote and ask the public if they would like to form one new city. That's it. That's all we're doing. I don't see why that's so hard to understand. If you're trying to dig something that isn't
Logistically, though,
here,
Okay, so it sounds though, okay, so we're wanting to create one city to solve this problem.
yes,
Logistically, how fast do you think this city could be formed?
6 months.
Okay.
I can
From
explain all the detail on that very easily. Idaho is under consolidated election laws. You can have a election every 3 months. And so the most probable that I would suggest, if anybody asks my opinion, which they probably will, would be the May primary.
Well, I mean,
We could
that's-
do it earlier.
So you vote to create one city and it's just done, the city's created.
Once you create the one new city, city of Pocatello and Chubbuck still exist. They've now voted to create a new city. You have to then, 3 months later, vote in a new city council. So the other two, even though they know it's going to happen, are now lame ducks. They have lost their job when they say new city. So they will stay in position until the new city is elected and is ready to take over. They'll take the best ordinances out of Pocatello and Chubbuck and combine them into a new city of 7 brand new people. All these elected officials are opposing us, except for Jim Johnson. Now he loses his job too, by the way. But all of the current politicians are toast. Now if they want to run for the city of the Newgate city, they can. I'm curious to see what the voters are going to say when over their dead bodies, was it even going to allow a vote? And so we have to elect new people. Jim Johnson's for it. Don Zeeby is for it. We elect this. We take out Roger Bray right here. He's on the city council. You've taken a person that opposes this off. Jim Johnson's opponent opposes the creation of one new city. They oppose this project. They don't like out-of-state, quote, interests coming in, even though all these out-of-state interests are tied to local landowners that are partnerships with them. It's the most stupid argument I've ever seen in my life. And I've been around this political game since I was 26 years old. I've never seen a worse mess or a screw-up of 2 cities walking away from this kind of economic development. Boise's saying, please come over here because our taxes are half. And they can handle it. We're saying, please stay here. We're a lot closer to where these jobs are coming from. Most of them are coming out of Utah because that's where Silicon Valley is located today. So they want to come up here. It's much closer. They're not going to come up here into tax hell because that's what we have. Pocatello and Chubbuck have the highest taxes in the entire state of Idaho.
And I guess I'm curious how just forming one city would alleviate that tax, or fix that tax.
Let me try one more time, okay? If you take the combined taxes of both cities and eliminate a city council and a mayor, eliminate 30 replicate positions that are in both cities, and put a 1-year, tell both cities, stop spending money. Chubbuck, stop trying to build a new city hall.
But you wouldn't be able to eliminate all that. I mean, you still
Yes,
have to
you
have
do.
the same amount.
No, you don't. You don't
That
understand.
city.
You have 2 now. You go from 2 to 1. So you're not having 2 administrations. They're gone. The 30 replicate positions we have in both cities that are high-paid positions. I'll give you one example. Chubbuck hired a planner from us in the county when I was there. Gave him a $25,000 raise to be the planner in Chubbuck. Okay? Pocatello already has a planner. Mayor Blatt in today's newspaper says, oh, I got this position, got $125 million. I'm going to hire another economic development guy to take the load off my back. He's had that position available for 3 years. He's been using that money for other purposes. That's what you should have in your newspaper right now. Why do they have these positions sucking money, taxpayer money away from us? If you need a position, fill it. He's never filled it. There is so much waste between 2 unprofessional mayors, in my opinion, that don't know what they're doing. They need a city manager. These guys are not professional. They're wasting the taxpayers' dollars. If you go from 1 to 2, 1 away from 2 is 1. There's less jobs. If you put a 1-year freeze and say, cities, stop spending money, stop hiring people for 1 year, that eliminates 64 positions that are vacant. Just like the one I just explained to you. People retire. The cities, I just did it in the federal government. My job here in Idaho was to drain the swamp, so to speak, when I worked for the President of the United States. I was over with the Department of Ag in Idaho. And I simply says, let's stop. When people retire, don't replace them. Let's see how long we can go, and can we still function with less employees. Guess what? We function just fine and save the taxpayer of the United States tens of millions of dollars. And I did that in less than 6 months. Okay? So I understand what I'm talking about. I've been doing this my entire life. And in government, I've been at the state, federal, and local level. I understand what I'm saying. Don Zeeby is a commercial guy. He understands economy of scale and what it means when you bring in a business, how many jobs that comes in. We don't have that understanding on a city council today. And this campaign is all about, does Pocatello grow? And why are they all opposed to this project up here? They're saying, oh, it's the environmental reasons. We have the best, this will be the most modern city in America. This will be a destination city because of what we're doing. That's what we're about to throw out the window. Over what? Because we have two squabbling mayors who don't understand reducing
So let me make
budgets.
sure I get this right. So we want to, okay, so in order to make this work, you wanna combine the city of Pocatello and Chubbuck.
Correct.
You wanna eliminate one of those
Almost
municipalities'
almost
government.
100 positions will be eliminated in the combination.
And when you create the new city, you will use, what's, like, based off Chubbuck or Pocatello, which model would you use?
Neither.
No,
Neither.
listen, let me finish the question. Basically, I mean, you're gonna have to have an operating government, you know, so which, I mean, would you have the same amount of people that are currently operating Chubbuck's
No,
government?
we don't need it because there's replication of positions.
Okay, how many, I guess what I'm saying is, you're gonna have
100.
one city that's combining two cities.
Which saves, because the duplicate jobs you have eliminates 100 jobs by combining them.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, for geographical area, if you eliminate.
It's all Pocatello all of a
So you would
sudden.
have the same amount of people that's operating, one of these two entities operating a geographical area.
You're not
that's the same
understanding at
size.
all.
No, let me just give you a,
Give me the cliff notes, I just wanna be able to understand it.
okay, the cliff notes are this. You've heard, and I'm not trying to be condescending.
Yeah,
You've heard the word best practices before.
right.
Okay. So you would, whoever is elected mayor and the members of the city council would use best practices of other municipalities and use those best practices to assemble and create a new city, okay? Which would, in essence, reduce costs, decrease employment, because there would be less costs, right? And you use the best practices. So to say that you would replace one with another, you normally wouldn't do that, right? You would come up with a new scenario of best practices to run the new city government.
So then, somebody who's currently paid, let's say, $100,000 from the city of Pocatello to do economic development is now tasked with providing economic development for a geographical area that's twice the size. Don't you think that that person would expect to receive twice the amount of money?
No.
So you're still gonna pay that same person $100,000 to do the job that's twice as hard?
We live in a region, in an area that we could, we just for the sake of purposes, for name purposes, we'd call it the Portland Valley, right? So when I'm out there doing my job, when I go out to recruit and get companies to come to town, i.e. Allstate and others that I've recruited into Hobby Lobby and Costco, that was for the region, it was for the Portland Valley, it wasn't for Pocatello, it wasn't for Chubbuck, it was for both communities, okay? Did I make twice the money to do that? No. Did I need that assistance of an economic development person to help me with that? No. Okay, so you're gonna do things, there are things called economies of scale. So you're gonna use those economies to create more jobs. Make sense? Ask your question.
It just seems to me, I mean, real estate's a different beast than economic development for a city position.
It is
you know?
not.
It's not, same thing.
I mean, it's a
Commercial.
commission-based job compared to a salary
No,
position
even
paid for by the
salary.
city.
I'm not on commission, okay? And Buck Sweeney still works for the corporation, because he's very, very good at what he does. But he doesn't understand government in Idaho. That's the only reason I'm here. I
You would
understand, he
have,
doesn't.
you would have an economic development person that is promoting the region, the Portland Valley, not specifically Pocatello or Chubbuck, right? I mean, that's the purpose of what's going on here, to create jobs for the community. When I say community, I'm talking both sides of the community, both sides of Yellowstone.
I mean, it just seems to me that if you got one guy in Pocatello doing it for 100,000, one guy in Chubbuck doing it for 100,000, you combine the cities, you
You
have one
fire
person.
both of them. You don't need. an
You have nobody doing economic
No,
development?
because we're doing it here, the private sector is doing it. So those dollars are saved, because right now, we had a story in the paper talking about the guy trying to save his job, Bannock Development is a perfect example. He's saying, oh my goodness, look at all this stuff, they're trying to cut my budget. That was a front page story that was run at the behest of the mayor of Pocatello in the out-of-state journal, okay, to take a slap. No, you don't need it.
If the city council and the new mayor determine that they need somebody to assist and help with economic development, you should do so. Okay, this is not a one-man job. It takes multiple people
So
to
the
do
the
it.
proposal of this one city would, then in terms of positions, would have a mayor and a city council, and that's it?
No, no. You still, no, look, right now you have two planners in both cities. Even if you just got rid of one of them, you just save them, do you have to pay him twice as much? The answer is absolutely not, so there's economy of scale.
You don't think that somebody who's doing twice the amount of work is not gonna want twice the amount of money?
No, not at all.
They're not doing
Devin,
twice the amount of work.
it's not twice the amount of work at all.
They're
You're doing
not
the same
twice
work.
amount of work.
It's the same work. It's just for a bigger scale, you're representing a bigger entity. It isn't more work.
So if
It's the
somebody who's
same
representing a
job.
bigger entity is getting paid $100,000 now, you don't think they're gonna ask for more money?
They can ask for all they want, but the city council, if you offer $100,000, they're gonna have all kinds of people asking to have the job.
I feel like trying to sell that to anybody who wants the job, is a tough sell.
It is a tough sell. We have them lined up right now. We've already gone far enough to see who could come in and actually clean up the mess that is caused by these two elected mayors. There is plenty of people that is more than happy to come in those wages from the private sector. Do they all have to be public employees? The answer is no.
Just because you create, you take a city of,
Sorry, I had to leave, but I made
a city of the size of Pocatello, and you combine them, does not necessarily mean that they're doing twice the amount of work, because they're not doing twice the amount of work.
Anyway, I had to spend some money, I already
I
have.
mean, it has to deal with economies of scale and the size of your departments and the requirements and needs. I mean, in business, if you're tasked with managing and you're a manager, you're paid proportionate to what your responsibilities are and the size of your department. You get a budget, and then you put in your budget for approval. If your approval is approved, then you can do what you need to do within that budget, but you've got to perform, and there's got to be standards that are met. And so if somebody were chosen to do an economic development thing, there would be requirements and toll gates to meet their objectives, and if they don't meet their objectives, they're gone. I mean, it's no different than the private sector. Everybody's got to be held accountable to a standard. You're held accountable to a standard. I don't know what your responsibilities are, but if you don't do your job, you're down the road looking for another one. And there's no difference in that. If you have to do 20 interviews in a day, do you expect to get paid more because you're doing 20 interviews a day versus 5? You're doing your job. You can ask for more money, but will you get it?
Okay, so what's next for this group? What are you guys doing?
Well, thank you for that answer. So, but do understand that all these people that work for
I don't understand at
Okay,
all.
that's
I'm
fine.
super confused.
I totally understand. Some people get confused. We understand that. But all the
Well, I mean,
employees,
there's just too many moving
please,
parts to this.
let me simplify it for you. You have two cities. All of those employees in both cities will apply to go to work for the new city. All of them will, I'm sure, or not all of them, because a lot of them will choose to do something else. But those that apply, they'll see what the salary range is. And it's probably more than they're making now. And so most of the employees, the good employees that we have in Pocatello and Chubbuck will still have jobs. Because the other cities are gone, they're not existing anymore, and they still live here. So they'll go and apply for jobs at the new city. And the new city will have a chance to hire the very same employees they have here. But instead of having 2 economic people, they could have 1. Instead of having 3 assistants for the mayor, they don't need an assistant for the mayor, to make the mayor a part-time position and have a professional running the city. Bottom line, the economy of scale, and what Don has explained, is very simple if you listen to it.
I get the idea or the proposal of combining one city. I just don't.
I don't know what your question is now.
What prefaced this?
What preface is
What
this?
prefaced this committee?
Well, I can tell you,
Jim, please do.
the big hassle in Bannock County is Texas. And so I started thinking, what can I do as a city councilman to make a difference to the citizens of Pocatello specifically? And it dawned on me what we talked about many years ago in terms of combining the 2 cities and eliminating the duplication. The 64 positions that by attrition disappeared between these 2 cities last year spelled big dollars. And by using attrition, rather than firing people, we're going to keep our employees happy, and we're going to get a stronger workforce because they're going to be doing what they want to do in a little bigger scale. So I'm very excited about the possibility of helping because Pocatello and Chubbuck are the two biggest users of tax dollars. So it helps those other 13 to 15,000 people that live in the rest of Bannock County. They're going to benefit from this also.
Did you consider any other alternatives to?
Well, I looked at, I really looked at our budget, Shelby, as a city to see if there were places where I could honestly go in and cut. There probably are some, but I don't know what they would be of significance, nearly as great as what we're talking about with the millions of dollars we can save every year by doing this. And I think economy of scales and other things are going to help us to work smarter, not necessarily harder, but smarter as elected officials to do what the people want. We have one of the best workforces with the city employees that I've ever seen. Yeah, we have a few people that still lean on the shovel, but those are fewer and far between because we just have great employees and we need to keep them.
So in the most general sense, what I'm understanding is the solution to Bannock County's massively high property taxes is to combine the cities of Pocatello and Chubbuck.
I think it's the best thing that I've thought of. And with these collective, good, smart people,
That's not the only answer though.
I mean that's what is the answer then? I mean,
That's part of the overall solution. When you combine the two cities, you're gonna have automatic savings because of duplication. But you also have to have a city council and a mayor, and if they so choose to have a professional manager take care of it, they need to control expenses.
Yep.
They also need to keep the employees happy. So it becomes a three-legged stool, right? You gotta manage your expenses, you gotta combine the cities, which is gonna lower taxes for the community at whole, and make us a more competitive marketplace nationally to attract businesses to our community.
and it's going to take people like Don Zeeby, who has this great experience in the business community, to help the city think like a business. We have to think smart, and some of our people don't think very smart. They just are glad they got elected, and they've got a new button to wear that says, I'm a city councilman or something. But you get people like Don involved in this, and we're going to really see things improve in these two cities.
I mean, you're the chairman of the city council.
Correct. I'm president of the city council.
What is your relation to this project? Are you a chairman or?
I'm a consultant that I'm working for him. I'm working for him.
I
and
hired
work
him
for
to
Tom
So what is your
Sawyer.
thought process on the fact that the two mayors right now are incompetent?
I don't agree with that. I think they're very capable people. I like both of these men a great deal. I think they've done a tremendous job. I've never seen anybody more visible in a community than Brian Bladd. But every one of us has our challenges, and Brian needs to focus on some of these economic things just a little bit better. And I think we'll be able to do that with Don and I working in tandem on some of these things.
Do you think that both of your backgrounds in real estate raise any kind of questions or concerns?
Every time there's something of a real estate nature, I've recused myself. So I don't find it as a conflict. But in our study sessions, I think I've been in a pretty good position to give some good counsel to the council. And Don is much smarter on these commercial properties than I am. I'm a great residential person. Don is a commercial specialist, and we're going to work a lot smarter as a city, I think, because of people like him.
And then, so that I'm clear, did this initiative start at all prior to the development with property taxes and this concern among developers with this Northgate project and those?
About the origins of it?
Huh?
The origins started with Ron Frazier on the Pocatello City Council. And I can bring him a number of articles that the Journal ran on this very issue back when he was on the City Council.
I mean, I'm not talking about like centuries ago.
That is not centuries, that's about,
Decades ago.
Jim replaced Ron.
I had to come up with something, and quite frankly, this just was incredible. Evan was here for his class reunion, and we started talking.
Okay, but what I guess what I'm saying is, what about this? Like, I mean,
Well, he's
what
just
caused you to sit
explaining.
and look at it?
Yeah.
Listen to what he just was trying to say, let him finish this thought.
I'm hearing.
There was a problem recently, though.
Yeah, I'm hearing the people of Bannock County say, ouch, because of their high taxes. Now, let me give you something here.
Hold on, though, I guess, I totally understand that aspect
Okay.
of it. I need to understand what Northgate has to do with this project.
Because if we don't do something like this, we're gonna lose what's been invested there by these developers and the
So-
property owners, in
okay.
my opinion. I mean, Don's better on it than I am, but
Well, it's not just your opinion, that's the reason they hired me. This thing is in trouble because we have two cities. And Jim,
So you're saying that without having two cities, or without having one city, Northgate's gonna fail?
I'm not saying that at all, you're putting words in my mouth. What I'm saying is,
I mean, that's.
well, I know, but you're cutting a
So
conclusion.
John, just what Jim just said.
Jim Johnson just said I came to my 50th class reunion, then you cut him off.
No, he just said that if we're in big trouble, if we don't provide one city.
Excuse me, he said that Evan Frazier came to his 50th class reunion and we got together and talked.
I'm not worried about the conversation about
No,
putting
no,
this
no, no,
together
You-
years
you
ago.
were asking how this all came about.
No, I'm
I'm
asking how
retired
this
in
has to do with
Florida.
Northgate.
okay, let me give you one thing on Northgate. Initially, I was going to represent Ken Poppy and his developers on the over 55 community.
Right.
Almost every time I talked to Ken, he said, oh, you should never would have done this, because he was running up against loggerheads, and it was costing more money all the time, and I was thinking, boy, we don't want this thing to fail. And so, this looked like a way in which we could maybe help the hurt a little bit by eliminating some of these great costs that are happening because Pocatello has a bigger ego than it should have as it relates to a sewer system.
Poppy was promised the sewer and water a year ago. He doesn't have it, so he only has 2 buildings under construction, and he still doesn't have water or sewer because we're building poop through Pocatello and not running it down. It would already be in place if they would honored the agreement of 17, the poop would be flowing through Chubbuck today, Poppy would be happy, we would have already sold the 55-plus community, but because they says, no, Pocatello's gonna do it all, we're gonna force you to pay more money to pump much longer lines through the city of Pocatello and not straight down to the sewage. Once that was violated, Poppy was screwed.
Okay. And just so that I'm clear, I mean, Tom Ballard from Millennial Group
Yes,
hired
me,
your consulting group.
correct. Mike, and it also in the hiring of these gentlemen, Jim was the first one to hire me to help understand and make sure that I helped them sell the concept of one city, because it makes total economic sense. That's the reason the brochure says Johnson and Beebe. This is their campaign. Now, they have other campaign issues. So that's the only reason I'm here. He hired me, and Tom Ballard hired me. I'm a retired guy, I still own property here, and I'll be coming back here, but, you know, I have a long history here, but I came from my 50th class reunion is how this began.
I mean, I don't want to get into a long-winded speech about your guys' campaigns, but is this the cornerstone of both of your guys' campaigns?
Correct.
I would say that it's the one that's gotten us the most attention, or me anyway.
Yeah.
Don's got so many more things
Don?
to say, he's,
Between the two of them, let me just say this, and I'm going to stop talking entirely. Don Zeeby and Jim Johnson are two of the most qualified candidates that I've ever supported, and I've ran over 100 successful campaigns in my career. These are outstanding individuals that know what they're doing, they're professional men. They're not professional politicians, they're statesmen, which is a huge difference. They're not in it for their own personal gratification. Don Zeeby does not need to be on the Pocatello City Council. But if this leads to a greater good for the entire community, he's willing to set aside, it will cost him money to serve on the Pocatello City Council. It costs Jim money to serve on the City Council. These are statesmen, they're great people. This just happens to be one issue they both totally are committed to because they know the good it'll bring to our community. That's all I'll say.
I'm glad you're asking those questions. It makes me feel like I really have a purpose here, because if you're asking these questions, how many of the citizens want to know the same things?
So I'm in it for one reason. And my reason is jobs, jobs, and jobs. When my son left the military, 4 months ago, he decided to move back to Pocatello with his family, an EOD officer. He said, Dad, I don't know where I'm gonna get a job. There's no jobs for me. And so my commitment to my son and the community is I want to create jobs where all of our adult children will be able to come home someday and get a job, a high-paying job in Pocatello, and live here and raise their family. But that's number one. So you got jobs, you got smart growth, and you've got smart spending. Those are the three issues that are controlling my campaign. And when I talk about smart spending includes taxes. And that tax issue has been an issue in our community for 20 years, 30 years. And no one has ever taken the bull by the horns to really fight it and to really understand it. And so, am I in favor of combining the two cities? If it makes economic sense and it can be proven that there's economic sense behind it, yes, I'm definitely in favor of it. But it's not up to me. It's up to the citizens to be presented that information and for them to decide. If we don't become one city, the tax base is going to continually be high, and we're going to jeopardize those jobs that could be for companies to come here and to locate here. So it makes economic sense, but we have to see the numbers. Everybody's got to be proven it, right? I mean, what did that woman used to say? Show me the beef, right? Well, we need to show the beef. And we can talk all we want intellectually about the process of making that happen, but once we do get it to happen and we can show it, then it makes economic sense. Now there's going to be people saying, I don't want anything to do with, I want to stay in Chubbuck, I don't want to be part of Pocatello, and the same thing with that. But we've got to look beyond that. We've got to look what's good for the entire community and for the Portneuf Valley so that we can grow in a smart way. Evan talked earlier about a company that he was working with. I'm late because I've been working on a deal with a Fortune 100 company. I'm under a non-disclosure, so I can't tell you who it is, but they're not coming because our tax base is too high, because they don't want to pay it. They can go down the road to Twin Falls, Idaho Falls, Burley, and other communities and pay less tax and be able to be profit because they're responsible to their stockholders. So Jim and I are going to be responsible to our stockholders, and those are the citizens of the community, to be able to provide those jobs.
The people that vote for us as well as those that don't, because we have to listen to both of them, don't we?
We do. So, we can blow smoke up everybody's ass and, and tell everybody about all the things that you're working on, but that proof is in the pudding. Right? I'm not going to say I'm working with this company or that company, because you don't know. I broke ground today on a 12,000 square foot building to expand a company in town. And because the taxes are, at that particular piece of property, are lower than other property taxes in town. But they wanted to be here, they wanted to stay in the community. So we've just got to be smart with the way we spend our money and do what's good for the citizens. And you will, by the way, I will never tell you that I'm working with somebody, and I'll never blow anything up yet. Like, we're working on $5 million. I don't say anything until the ink is dry on the papers, when you'll find out about it. When I did Costco in 2000,
But your name's on this. You're attached to this still.
He's attached to, he understands the business of this.
I'm not attached to that.
This is what you told me about selling that.
This is what I've told you from I'm speaking for the project. These folks are running for the city council. This
No. We're not separating the two. All day we've been combining them, so I need to know, otherwise I'm not. That's the thing, it's.
Well, do not, okay? Please, do me a favor, do not, I don't know what Jim stands, but do not attach me to a $5 billion number, because I have never seen it.
I've never seen any of this stuff, that's what I'm saying. I haven't seen any of this, this is all
I
grandiose
do not know
information
about,
to me.
okay?
So I'm gonna attach you
Whether
to this proposal, which the selling points were made by Fraser today. So I'm not gonna say you said this, but
Yeah.
you're supporting and an advocate of this program.
I'm supporting the analysis, I'm supporting that we should definitely take a serious look at combining the two cities. And if it makes financial sense, then we should do it. It'll get on the ballot, and then it's up to the citizens to decide.
What if it doesn't make financial sense?
Then I'm not for it.
Okay.
No, I'd vote against it too. And so would Tom Ballard. By the way, he doesn't live here, so he wouldn't vote. But I'm gonna buy a house back here, so, by that time I'd be able to vote.
We're not, I'm not trying to ramrod anything down anybody's throat, and I'm not here to have somebody believe me just because I say I think it's a good idea. There needs to be the analysis done, which is being done or is done, and until we see, show me the beef, and there's proof in the pudding, right? We need to see that before, and the citizens need to understand it, so that when it gets on the ballot, they've got the basis to make an intelligent decision.
This is the time.
So maybe this was premature is what I'm
No,
saying.
no, let me give you the second press conference now.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
I do, 100%.
I agree too. The second press conference, because you can only cover so much at one time, we're bringing in a renowned expert that has did all of this. That will be meeting with the committee.
Who's this?
I can't tell you right now.
Fraser, I mean, you gotta understand that, you can't tell me you're bringing in an
Fine.
expert and then tell me that
No
it's-
problem at all.
I mean,
No problem at all. Don't
What you
record it.
told me is that you're doing nothing,
We are doing a lot.
but you're selling this massive program.
Did I just do nothing by bringing these two people in here?
Right, but what I'm saying is these two people are running for a city council seat.
Right,
They're-
and if you would shut up for a second and let me finish my sentence, he has done this in other communities in Utah, okay? He is, let me finish.
Tom Ballard?
Would you allow me to finish a sentence?
I'm asking who? Who are you talking about, though?
One of the premier
The expert that
city
you're bringing in?
managers in Utah is gonna come up here in this very room and hold a press conference. And I'm not telling you his name until we have committed him on the date that he's
Okay,
coming
what
up.
group is doing this work?
Me, Evan Frazier.
Evan Fraser's analyzing the combination of these two cities.
No, I am not. I
Okay,
am not
who's
at all.
doing that?
The expert that is gonna come up and hold a press conference about the numbers.
One person. He doesn't work with anybody else.
No, at our behest, he has agreed to show what they did in Utah by doing exactly what we're doing here. He has agreed, and when he says he's ready to come up, I will give you his name, and we will have a press conference with the entire committee behind him, and he will give them a lecture on why this works. I have no authority to give you his name right now.
So is this,
So this is the proof in the pudding.
is this a campaign? Is this an election campaign, or is this a campaign for one city?
This is a campaign to solve this problem. I've been hired by 3 individuals. I've been hired by these 2 to help them in their campaign. I've been hired by this group that's going to bring in the expert to explain why this makes sense.
All right.
I don't know how much simpler I can say it. And we'll bring him in and announce when he is, when he's ready to come up, and that'll happen within the next 2 weeks.
In the next 3 weeks?
Next 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. Good.
That's what we plan on. Now, we're subject to his schedule. He's a very busy man.
Yeah.
He's managing some major cities in Utah right now. Or I should say he's managing a new, bigger city that didn't exist until he came along. So, but we'll let him tell his own story. I'm not gonna tell it. But it'll make a lot of sense when the people are well educated, and we thought that's what the meeting was for. So we're hoping they will report it accurately.
John, are you, let's see here. John, what's a good number to get a hold of you?
208-403-1973.
You want me there about, what, 8:15, you'd say?
I got Jim's number.
I will, whatever I told you.
Yeah, I'll be there I'll be there between 8 and 8:15.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call you.
And then I'll give you as much time as you need for the other stations, so happy to do it. And the Neil Larson went extremely well when they did their call-in, Neil Larson show in Idaho Falls, when they did their poll